Imagine you've just landed in Colombia and need to get to your hotel or hostel. Would you know how to navigate catching an Uber or a taxi in Spanish? How do you say, can you drop me here, please? Or can you turn on the air conditioner? Or even, do you have change?
By the end of today's episode, you'll know how to catch a taxi or an Uber en español, communicate during the ride, and confidently pay and say adios. Vamos, amigos. Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your experienced Spanish teacher and co-host from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
We'll help you get confident listening and speaking beginner Spanish with content you can actually use in real-life conversations.
Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on socials at Spanglish_friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos.
Oli, oli, Spanglish friends. Welcome back to another episode where we're teaching you practical Spanish you're actually going to use in real life.
Bienvenidos, bienvenidos. And if you're new here, welcome. This is episode 69, episode 69. And today we are learning how to survive a taxi or Uber ride in Spanish. Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by Uber. But
No.
it is one of the most common ride-shares apps used across South America and many other Spanish-speaking countries. So chances are you'll come across it when traveling.
Yes, whether you're going to Spain, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, some point you're going to need transport. I used Uber all the time when I was traveling around South America.
Ordering a ride in Spanish is usually easy, but actually communicating with the driver in Spanish can feel a little intimidating at first.
Exactamente. That's what we're fixing today. So in the next couple of minutes, you're going to learn how to greet your taxi or Uber driver and confirm with them that they're picking up the right person, you, how to communicate comfortably during the ride, and how to end your trip, how to pay if it's a taxi, and how to say goodbye naturally.
First, though, let's listen to today's mini conversation. Anne has just ordered an Uber after a long travel day and is getting picked up.
So listen carefully to see how many words you can recognize and prove to yourself your Spanish listening skills are improving. ¿Lista, Profe Val?
Amiga, sí, estoy lista. Comencemos. Buenas tardes. ¿Me da su PIN?
Claro, 5508.
Gracias. Genial. ¿Emily?
Sí, soy yo. Disculpe, ¿puede prender el aire acondicionado? Hace calor.
Ah, sí, claro.
¿Me deja aquí?
Claro. Listo. Llegamos. Son 15 pesos.
Pago con efectivo. ¿Tiene cambio de 20 pesos?
Sí, aquí tiene.
Muchísimas gracias. Que tenga un buen día.
Gracias, igualmente. All right, amigos, let's start from the very beginning. You've just ordered an Uber or flagged a taxi, and now you're meeting your driver for the first time.
My hot travel tip before continuing is that Uber isn't the same in every Spanish-speaking country. For example, in some South American countries, the airport pickup zones are very organized for Uber, but in others, you might need to walk to a designated zone. For example, in Chile, Santiago de Chile, Ubers can be outside the main arrival areas. So it's always worth checking before you land, where do you need to go to catch a ride share?
And with taxis, always try to use official taxi ranks or trusted companies. Don't just jump into random cars. No, don't do that. This is especially important at airports or bus terminals where there are clear marked zones.
That's right. Safety first. Don't accept a ride from anyone saying taxi, taxi when they're not a taxi driver, okay? So the first thing you'll hear when you get in the car, the Uber or the taxi, is usually a greeting from the driver, el conductor. Buenos dias, they might say. Good morning, buenas tardes. Good afternoon, buenas noches. Good evening. Now, if you're using Uber at airports, they might ask for your PIN, su PIN, for your safety. Now, they might say, me da su PIN, which means, can you give me your PIN from the Uber app? In our mini conversation, I replied with claro, which means, of course. Then I gave the 4-digit PIN, 5508. You can just read the numbers individually. So if you know the numbers 1 to 10, you're good to give your Uber PIN in Espanol. If you need a refresher, head back to episode 10.
You'll also want to confirm the ride is actually yours. The driver might say your name when they arrive, or ask, as we did in our mini conversation, Emily? You can respond confidently with sí, soy yo, meaning yes, that's me.
Nice. And another top tip here, if you're taking an Uber, the price is preset, but if you're taking a taxi, it's a really good idea to talk about what the price will be before you start the trip. This is going to help avoid any nasty big bill surprises at the end. And in some spaces, we actually call this the gringo tax. And it's true and it's real. When people assume you don't speak Spanish, they might then jack up the price as well. It doesn't happen everywhere, but it's good to be aware that the gringo tax can exist.
To ask about price, you can say, ¿Cuánto cuesta ir a? Just to confirm, meaning, how much does it cost to go to? ¿Cuánto cuesta ir a Miraflores, for example, which is a popular beach area in Lima, Peru?
Nice. Always good to negotiate beforehand. Now, once you're inside the taxi, el Uber, and you're on your way, comfort becomes the priority. And maybe it's really hot outside when you've arrived, or maybe the air conditioner is just freezing. It's like the Arctic in the car. How do you fix this?
It happens all the time. It's very often. And if you want the air conditioning on, you can say, ¿Puede prender el aire acondicionado, por favor? ¿Puede prender el aire acondicionado? Which means, can you turn on the air conditioner, please?
Opposingly, if it's just freezing in there, you can say, puede apagar, can you turn off el aire acondicionado?
You could also ask, ¿Puede prender la calefacción? This means, can you turn on the heating? ¿Puede prender la calefacción, por favor?
That's right. Equally, you can say apagar la calefacción. Can you turn off the heating? Maybe they've just got it like a sauna in there as well. Or if you just want some fresh air and you prefer to use the window instead, you can say, puede abrir la ventana. Puede abrir la ventana, por favor, if you want to sound polite. Can you open the window?
In summary, our key verbs here are prender, meaning turn on, apagar, meaning turn off, and abrir, meaning open. Once you know those, you can adjust almost anything in the car. Prender, apagar, and abrir.
Now, one of my favorite bits about catching taxis or Ubers in Spanish-speaking countries is that it's your chance to practice some Espanol. Honestly, some of my best conversations happened with locals driving me around in rideshare. So it's such a great environment to practice without pressure.
A simple way to start a small talk could be ¿Cómo está? Meaning, how are you? Or ¿Cómo va su día? How is your day going? Very polite and simple to start the conversation.
Drivers might also ask you questions in return, like ¿De dónde es? Where are you from? Or they might clarify with ¿Es su primera vez aquí? It's your first time here?
You don't need complicated answers. You can just say Soy de Australia, adding the place, your nationality. Or Sí, es mi primera vez aquí. Short answers are completely natural and fine. And in previous episodes, we also teach you how to say the place where you were born, your nationality.
See, so now, before we know it, you've been in the Uber, you've been in the taxi, and you're arriving at your location. Let's learn some tips to tell the driver where you'd like them to stop. So a super useful phrase is me deja, which means can you drop me? And then you can add where you would like them to drop you, like right here, here, there. How do we say all these things?
Okay, first we have to imagine you are sitting in the taxi at the center of a small map, okay? To then
Yes.
explain right here, here, there, and over there.
Yes, to explain where things are relative to where you're sitting right now. So you're sitting in the taxi. Aquí means if you're looking out in the road, literally like right in front of you, right here. So me deja aquí, por favor, is literally perfect if your driver has stopped right at your destination. I've definitely used this before, me deja aquí, and the driver's like, come to a very sudden stop and stopped me right there when I really wanted to be dropped a bit further up. So when you say me deja aquí, it means literally like right here, this is perfect. And then I had to do the walk of shame back to where I really wanted to be dropped off.
Then we can say acá, which means here, but more in general, like somewhere around this area is fine. This is what the person might understand when you say me deja por acá. Por acá está bien, meaning around here is good, you could say.
Now let's imagine, so you're in the taxi and the destination you want to be dropped at is visible, but it's not in front of you, like on the side of the road where you're driving. A hotel entrance, for example, it might be across the street. We need to say allí. Allí, that means there. It's a visible place, but it's over there. So you could say, me deja allí, por favor. So you could be pointing specifically and say, look, over there, that place, allí, that's where I want to be. So the mental picture is simple. If you're in the center of the car, aquí is like exactly right in front of you. Acá is like the general area, and allí is like a simple point you can see over there, and you want to point and get them to go there, like al otro lado de la calle, the other side of the road.
For example, in a taxi, you might say, me deja en esta calle, por favor. Here we are combining me deja, which we learned means can you drop me off, plus these phrases. For example, me deja por acá, por favor. Can you drop me off in this area? Me deja por aquí. Por aquí está bien. Can you drop me off here? Here is fine. Aquí está bien.
Nice. And Uber payments are normally handled automatically through the app, but with taxis, you might need to say how you're then paying when you arrive at the end of your trip. Con efectivo, with cash, or con transferencia, through a transfer, or con tarjeta, with card.
If you're paying with cash, especially large notes, you can say, tiene cambio de 20 pesos. This means, do you have change of? And then you add the amount. De 20 pesos, de 50 pesos, de 100 pesos. Tiene cambio de? To finish the ride, always thank your driver. You could say, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much. Or gracias. Thank you. Que tenga un buen día. Have a good day. And normally you might also hear in response, igualmente, meaning likewise.
Amigo, such useful Spanish was learnt today. Now it's time to put everything you've learnt into practice and cement it into your mind with our reto de la semana. And your challenge this week is to practice asking a theoretical driver in your mind's eye to drop you off somewhere in Spanish. How would you do it?
You could try with me deja plus there, the place, plus por favor. Me deja aquí, here. Me deja por acá, in this area, around this area. Leave your sentences in the comments and you might get a shout out in our next episode.
Speaking of shout outs, it's time for our Spanglish Friend shout out of the week. Awesome people around the world putting their Spanish into practice. And this goes to Marissa from Arizona in the USA, Los Estados Unidos. And she introduced herself in Espanol in the comments. Well done, Marissa.
Marisa, muchísimas gracias y felicitaciones. Thank you so much and congrats. Next episode is number 70. Super special. And we're talking all about texting in Spanish.
Yes, Espanol has many text abbreviations and we're going to break them all down so you know all the cool lingo to be using when texting friends or family in Espanol. We'll catch you next time. Well done, amigos.
Nos vemos. Ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening to Spanglish Friends. We're both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us, leave a rating, or tell a friend about the show. It helps our awesome community grow.
Join fellow beginner Spanish learners by following us on Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends.
Congratulations on taking another step in your Spanish learning journey.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.